It all started one quiet summer evening. I was 19, home from college, and my mom had remarried 2 years earlier. Her husband, my stepfather, David, was, by all appearances, a great guy. He was kind, funny, and always tried to make me feel like part of the family. My mom adored him. I used to think, finally, she's found someone who treats her the way she deserves. But life has this cruel way of showing you that appearances are just costumes people wear until they don't need them anymore. David was a charming man. The kind that always knew what to say. At first, I loved how he'd ask about my studies or bring me coffee when I was up late doing assignments. It felt like having the father figure I never had growing up. My biological dad left when I was 10, so I had always craved that kind of attention, someone to guide me, to care in that quiet, fatherly way. But soon, his attention began to feel different. It was subtle at first, small compliments that lingered longer than they should. "You look beautiful today," he'd say, his voice low, almost too soft. Or the way his eyes would stay on me a moment too long when I'd walk into the room. I brushed it off. I didn't want to believe that the man who made my mom so happy could ever be inappropriate. But deep down, something didn't feel right. One night, everything changed. My mom had gone to visit my grandmother out of town. It was just me and David in the house. I remember that night so clearly. It was raining, the air smelled like wet grass, and we were watching an old movie together in the living room. I was wrapped in a blanket, half asleep, when I felt his hand brush against mine. I thought it was an accident, so I didn't move. But then his hand lingered. My stomach tightened. I pulled my hand back quickly, trying to keep things from turning awkward. He looked at me and said, "You remind me so much of your mother when she was your age." I forced a nervous laugh, pretending it was just an innocent comment. But then he leaned closer, his eyes never leaving mine. "You're even more beautiful," he whispered. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. I stood up, mumbling something about going to bed. He didn't stop me, but the look he gave me as I walked away, it made my skin crawl. After that night, everything felt different. He acted as if nothing had happened, but I couldn't forget. The next few days were unbearable. He'd knock on my door just to check in, or compliment how I looked in a dress. It was confusing, uncomfortable, and infuriating all at once. I didn't know whether to tell my mom or pretend it wasn't real. She was so happy, happier than I'd seen her in years. How could I destroy that? But pretending didn't make it go away. One afternoon, when Mom was still out, I was cooking in the kitchen. David came up behind me and put his hands on my shoulders. I froze. He said my name, soft and low, and then he whispered, "You don't know how hard it is to be around you." My entire body went cold. I pushed him away and shouted at him to stop. His face changed instantly, the charm disappeared, replaced with something darker. "You think she'd believe you?" he said quietly. "After everything I've done for you." I ran to my room, locked the door, and cried. I felt powerless, trapped in my own home. The next morning, I left early for college, packing a few clothes and pretending it was just a spontaneous trip back to campus. I didn't tell my mom the truth, not then. I couldn't bear to see her face fall apart the way mine had. But secrets have a way of finding their way to light. A few weeks later, she called me late at night, crying. She said she found messages on David's phone, not to me, but to another woman. She was devastated. She told me how betrayed she felt, how she couldn't believe he'd do that to her. That was when I realized I wasn't the only one he had fooled. The guilt ate me alive. I couldn't keep it in any longer. I told her everything, every word, every look, every touch that crossed the line. There was silence on the phone for a long time. Then she whispered, "Oh my God, why didn't you tell me?" Her voice cracked, and I could hear the sound of her heart breaking through the line. That night, she packed his things and threw him out. It wasn't just the betrayal of her marriage, it was the betrayal of trust, of family, of safety. David tried to call, to apologize, to say I misunderstood. But Mom didn't let him back in. She changed the locks, changed her number, and started therapy, for both of us. It took me months to heal from the shame and confusion. I blamed myself for a long time, thinking maybe I had done something wrong, maybe I had invited it somehow. But therapy helped me see it for what it was, manipulation. Predators don't always hide in the dark, sometimes, they sit at your dinner table, wearing a smile. It's been years since then. My mom is finally happy again, focused on herself. As for me, I still struggle with trust, especially with men who remind me of David's charm. But I've learned that healing isn't about forgetting, it's about forgiving yourself for what happened to you. Sometimes, when I look back, I still feel that ache, that reminder that one moment can change everything. But I also feel strength. Because despite everything, I found my voice. And that voice is what saves me every single day. So if you're watching this and you've ever been in a situation where someone you trusted crossed a line, know this, you are not to blame. You don't owe anyone your silence. Sometimes, speaking your truth might shatter everything, but in that wreckage, you'll find freedom. That's my story. My stepfather did something that changed our relationship forever, but it also changed me. It taught me the hardest, most painful lesson of all, that trust, once broken, can't be repaired, but courage can build something even stronger in its place.